Hello, everyone. This is Michelle Earhart, staff writer at Tom's Hardware. We're here as part of our weekly CES coverage or daily CES coverage with Eric Ackerson from Acer to go through some of his products, and Andrew Friedman, who's here with us from staff to help us talk with Eric. So feel free, no matter which platform you're on, leave a comment. Ask questions as we go through. Eric's got some tech to show off, and we'll get a good idea of the new laptops that Acer has in store. So Eric, if you want to get started, I know that you have two laptops that you can show us right off the bat.
Indeed, I do. So, it's a strange year, a strange way to go about CES, but we nonetheless have exciting products to announce. I believe the news release just went out a little bit ago for these products, the first of which is the Predator Triton 300 SE. SE stands for Special Edition. It's because we've done some special things here. First and foremost, this is the first time Acer has done a 14-inch gaming laptop. So it's a 14-inch full HD IPS display with 140 hertz. This is the first time we've ever done that. So it's a unique spot in our lineup. There are some other unique and cool things about this as well. I mentioned a news release. We had to wait because we have partners that we're working with. And on this particular laptop, those two partners are Intel and Nvidia. So this new laptop has the latest 11th generation Core processors, in this case, a Core i7. This is a Tiger Lake H35. And then the other partner is Nvidia, and new mobile graphics announced by them, GeForce RTX 30 series, and we'll configure this laptop with 3060. So pretty awesome set of specs there beyond all the other things we've done to make this unique.
Great.
Yeah, I mean, I could just keep rambling on, but I want to make sure you can
No, I'm just curious. You have it like on hand with you, correct?
I do. And one of the other things that makes this a special edition that'll be apparent right away when I hold it up for everybody to see if they're familiar with our line, you'll see. But let me step back a second just to kind of inform people how we position the Predator brand. We have two different sub-brands in Predator, or families of products. The Predator Triton, which is what we're talking about today, is a thin and light device, really very mobile, and focus on design, industrial design, materials, sleek look and feel. And then Helios, which is more of a traditional gaming powerhouse device, tends to be a little bit bulkier, stronger, and more obvious gaming cues. So back to Triton 300. This is a departure, as I said, because it's the 14-inch screen. Another thing that's very obvious is how we've branded this product, or in this case, not. Hopefully you can see here, this is what we call the A cover, or the back of the display. This is all silver. Typically on one of our gaming machines, you'd find a matte black or glossy black. And what's missing? The large Predator logo that's usually here.
Yeah.
Instead, oops, I'm turning the wrong way. Instead, up at the corner, you see the Predator logo. Just a small, let me try and catch it in the light just right.
Oh, tiny guy, yeah.
Yeah, just a little logo. No branding, no name, just the logo. So that's on purpose. We did this to kind of minimize the overall gaming aesthetic of the system. That has to do with making the logo smaller, removing the name from the front of the system, and then changing the coloring to that, what we call sparkly silver. And that's because the segment of user we're going for here is not gamer first. This is really a powerful productivity portable device that can also play games.
So what sort of inspired you to do this 14-inch laptop to make it a little less gamer focused, but to keep it in the Predator family?
So a number of things. Going back a little bit in time, we've noticed that a lot of our Predator systems over the years were purchased by people who were looking for raw performance, but they didn't necessarily play games. They were looking to be able to be productive, get their work done, to stream, to broadcast, to edit videos, create 3D models, all of the things that they do in their primary life, which is productivity. But they were a little turned off by the gaming aesthetics, not just of our products, but in general in the gaming space. And so not too long ago, we introduced a brand called Concept D, and that was very vertical for very high-end professional graphics design, 3D design. But we realized there's still a spot for the mainstream user and where it's going to be found in a more wide assortment or availability in the marketplace, and just kind of surveying the market, looking what's available, talking to end users that have these powerful gaming systems from us. We realized there's a big segment of users looking for this product. So they can go to work, they can go into a meeting room, they can present, they can maybe be in a classroom, they can go to a cafe and not be targeted as a gamer or immediately identified as a gamer. They want a device to get their work done. Playing games is an added bonus for them. So it has to first look sleek and professional.
To that end, what kind of specs are we talking about on the inside?
So let me talk about what we announced today, the configuration that we're announcing to the world today. It's the Predator Triton 300 SE. It's a 14-inch full HD IPS display with 44 hertz refresh. It has that 11th gen Intel Core processor I mentioned, i7-11375H. 16 gigabytes of RAM, 512 gigabytes of M.2 PCIe storage, and the GeForce RTX 3060 graphics with 6 gigs of video RAM. The price is $1,399, and this will be available in the market in early March.
Wow. Okay. So it's got that Tiger Lake H series, which is something that we haven't seen yet. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, I probably won't do as good a job as Intel would, so I'll leave the bulk of that for a conversation you can have with them or reading other articles. But it's about efficient power. So it's boosting performance, keeping core count down a little bit, and then also maintaining some level of efficiency for getting things done. For instance, this is a gaming laptop, but we're able to get 10 hours of battery life. And as that H part of the Tiger Lake series, the Turbo Boost Max technology 3.0, again, Intel can explain how it works better than I can, but it allows it to go up to a max of 5 gigahertz. And then included and built in with all of this new stuff from Intel are some pretty interesting things like Thunderbolt 4. So extremely fast and simple connection to external devices, daisy chaining, and throughput of information. On top of that, you talked about specs or things that we've done for this to target that user. There are a few things that we've done over the years in regards to our Predator lineup. For instance, having a very good audio solution. In this case, about a year and a half ago, we started working with DTS. So this is the DTS X Ultra audio solution, provides a 3D spatial soundscape. So with the right kind of headset, you can hear music positioned in an orchestra coming from one side or the other. And as you turn, it stays relevant. And more importantly, when you are gaming, hear footsteps for somebody sneaking up behind you, for instance. And then also killer Wi-Fi. So this is a Wi-Fi 6 solution. That's part of the goodness that comes with Intel along with the Thunderbolt, but we're working with Killer for their solution because it offers something called Control Center 2.0. And this is where a user can go into our software called Predator Sense and fine-tune and control the bandwidth and prioritize bandwidth on the device. So it's a quality of service type of functionality that a user would normally have to go to the router to do, and every router has a different interface or offers more. Some offer more functionality than others, but this is on device regardless of what Wi-Fi you're connected to, and allows the user to prioritize bandwidth for what they're working on, and that's a really, really neat thing.
Great. Andrew, do you have any questions so far? Oh, it seems
sorry,
like
I was muted. We're live production, everybody. I do actually have a question, not so much about the H35 as much as about Acer's choices in implementing it. If I remember correctly, you're using it across much of the lineup, not just in the SE, but also in the regular Predator and the Nitro 5. Several other vendors have decided to largely stick with the Comet Lake 45-watt version, and Intel has suggested a 45-watt Tiger Lake part will come later. So why has Acer decided to go full throttle on the 35-watt as opposed to keeping it for now in the smallest and waiting for 45 later in the year?
So that's a very good question, and it's more about business and strategy than about technology. So it has to do with what inventory is in the channel now, what's available after the holiday season and or shipping for the beginning of the year, and timing and bringing things to market, in particular with newer upcoming options from Intel further down the line. So we want a very good solution now, and we have room to upgrade in the future, if you can kind of read between the lines on that.
Right.
Gotcha. Speaking of questions, we have a couple of questions from a viewer. First off, just a comment from Javier here, who says he loves the minimalist style on it. But he's also got a question. Is the screen G-Sync or G-Sync compatible?
That's a good question. Let me see if I have my spec sheet open for this product. I don't, but I can go grab that real quick, I think. If I were to guess, this is going to be G-Sync compatible. Hopefully I can not guess in a second. Yeah, I'm going to have to dig deeper, it looks like, and find the part number and go look that up, which I'll do as I'm talking. So a good question. I'll try and seek out that answer for you. I think G-Sync is not a priority on this device, primarily because it is not a gaming first device. Certainly there are applications or uses in the professional sense that would benefit from it, but it's not the first thing. So I'm looking up panel info here to make sure, and go to 14-inch, try and get a quick answer for you. It is not G-Sync.
It's not G-Sync. But again, it's not necessarily being marketed as gaming first, which is interesting because it's still a Predator product, right? Is there a reason why you decided to keep it under that family?
Yeah, I think well, there's a strong brand recognition for performance with Predator. Right. And there's a premium to the Predator brand over Nitro, which is also a very strong gaming category for us and gaming brand. But there's a noticeable difference in the premium. And because this is for a professional, we think there's a desire for a certain aesthetic or look and feel. You know, what I haven't mentioned yet is the fact that this is an aluminum chassis. So, you know, you saw that nice reflection.
I'm going to ask that.
On top and bottom. And Nitro is in almost every configuration I remember seeing over the last X number of years, it's always a plastic chassis.
I understand that you have a Nitro for us to look at as well, but before we move on there, we have another viewer question also from Javier here, who asks, do they have an Nvidia Studio label or a Max-Q label on the Triton, and what's the requirement to be?
Yeah, also very good questions. Let me start with the Max-Q first. In all of my reading of Nvidia marketing materials and conversations with them, there's no official marketing branding for Max-Q or Max-P. So there won't be a label that indicates that on our device, and I don't expect you'll find it on others. In fact, many times you might have a hard time finding information to indicate whether it's a Max-Q or Max-P implementation of the GPU. That's partly by design. Nvidia feels, and you know, I'm not speaking for them, just kind of interpreting what I've heard, that the Max-Q implementation is so close to the Max-P implementation of the graphics. It's about balancing performance and efficiency, kind of like I mentioned Intel earlier. You're getting so close on that curve of performance to the top, but you're saving a lot in efficiency, being more efficient, so you extend the battery life, that they don't really want to call it out because there's an assumption it's lesser, and in fact, in many ways, it's greater. So we won't be calling that out. And I'm sorry, the first part of the question, I didn't. I'm trying to recall what the first part of the question was. If you could repeat that.
Was it an Nvidia Studio branded?
Oh yeah. So probably. No, this is not Nvidia Studio branded. We at the moment have left that to our Concept D line of products. I'm not even sure if the studio software has been certified or tested on this yet. I assume so, but I don't know for sure. But it will not be branded that way.
Great,
It's a
thank
legit
you.
question. Yeah, you bet. And there's one last thing I want to follow up on with the Predator Triton 300 SE before we move on to the Nitro. And that's our evolution on cooling solution. And we've done it yet again. Over the years, we've had a product that we integrate into our gaming systems called Aeroblade 3D fan. And we're now on the 5th generation of this. And I'll try and quickly recap what that means. It's a all metal fan. The blades are all metal. That allows them to be thinner. We've gone even thinner than before. We were at 0.1 millimeter before. Now we're at 0.08. There are some advantages and disadvantages to that, but we've overcome the disadvantages. We have 89 blades inside there. And with each generation of this fan, we've designed different elements in. First, there was kind of a little groove in the fan blade itself that would help capture air and push it in a certain direction. Then we had little, serrated edge to the edge at the very end or outside of the fan blade, again, to help capture air, but more importantly, to reduce turbulence, which creates noise inside the system. And then we've added a little winglet on top and things like that. 5th gen, well, now we have kind of a ring. If you look top down on the fan, and I didn't want to take the one system I have apart to show you this, but there's a little ring inside, again, to help capture and control airflow. On top of that, we have a more enclosed or partitioned design to the inside of the system with thermal foam that kind of seals off the hot components, the CPU and the GPU, from the rest of the chassis. This should help control the airflow and the heat dissipation through the chassis, so you don't get a too hot to touch keyboard area or the area where you're resting your, around the touchpad, things like that. Also, the what we call the vortex flow fan area with the 2 copper heat pipes and the Aeroblade fan that I mentioned does a much better job being efficient in pulling air out, pushing air out, pulling air in, and keeping those components rock solid in stability. If it starts to overheat, the system's going to stutter and not perform well, or have to slow down in order to stop itself from hurting itself or overheating, right? So this cooling solution allows for high performance and stability throughout all of it. And part of the reason this solution is in here is we know it's aimed at a not gamer first, but a professional worker first. The Predator Sense software, which is where the user would go to see, to control the quality of service bandwidth, it's also where they would go to see system stats above and beyond what you get elsewhere in Windows. Temperature of CPU, fan speed, and stuff like that. We can also control the fans and the fan speeds and overclock there. So all of this works together with preset overclocking options and a silent mode for when you really want to get work done. So sorry, that was a little long, but
no worries. So we have about 10 minutes left
Yep.
on this particular stream. So sort of to contrast with the Triton that you just explained, you also have the Nitro on hand to show us, right?
I do indeed. I have the Nitro is an interesting announcement for us at this CES because it's actually 4 different products, and I'll explain and try and simplify that. First of all, there are 2 screen sizes. There's a 15.6, which is the very common mainstream gaming screen size, and then there's a 17.3. So that's 2. And then we have products available in those different screen sizes from Intel with their new 11th gen Core series processors, as well as from AMD with their new Ryzen series of Ryzen 5000 mobile processors. So that ends up being 4. On top of that, once again, Nvidia is a great partner here with their new GeForce RTX 30 series graphics. The Nitro series will go all the way up to 3050, which is a new kind of top ceiling for us on the Nitro brand. We've never really gone that high. And there are a couple of reasons for that, but
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm sorry to interrupt. Just want to make sure clearly. Was that a miss? You said up to 3050. That's
no. Unless I misspoke.
Yeah, no, I think you did.
I meant to say 3080.
Okay, that makes more sense.
All the way to the top.
You say there is no 3050 yet. Okay, so 3080 all the way.
Sorry, sweet. No.
We're going all the way to the 3080. Thank you for correcting me on that. Definitely don't want to cause confusion, which is a new ceiling for the Nitro brand, taking it all the way up. And to compare and contrast the Nitro and the Predator, I'll hold up the Nitro for you. This is a 15-inch version. And even though it is a more pure gaming play, we've also made it a little more subtle in the design. This little edged area here would typically be highlighted in a red color.
Red.
And now we're just going to matte black. And even the brand is a little more subtle. You do still get, if I can, a little bit of Nitro.
A little bit of branding there on the hinge.
And then on the hinge there, you get the more typical red on Nitro, and we have a teal color on Predator, which, you know, I didn't show you the venting on the Predator, but you can see there's no coloring. It's just a very sleek, professional looking, thin and light laptop. Here's the big difference I wanted to highlight between these two, though, and that is the footprint size. I'm going to try and line up the edges and be honest about that and not hide anything. Look at the difference around the space in terms of footprint size from a 15.6 to a 14.0. I mean, it's, and I'll just hold it up so you can see. I'm not cheating here. It's an incredible difference in the size. Obviously, what we call the Z height, or the thickness, makes a difference, fitting it into certain bags. But also just this small size of the Triton 300 SE makes it very, very portable. So easy to go from meeting room to meeting room, classroom to classroom. Really be a portable power.
Remind us again, just for people who might have joined in now, what kind of GPU the Triton has in that size compared to the Nitro?
So the Predator Triton 300 SE will be configured with up to the Nvidia GeForce RTX 3060. And it will still offer a 10-hour battery life. It comes in at under 3/4 of an inch in thickness, 0.7 inches, and it has a weight of under 4 pounds, 3.75 pounds. On the Nitro will be available in 15.6 and 17.3 inch screen sizes with Intel or AMD CPUs and Nvidia GeForce RTX graphics all the way up to 3080. Both laptops have a 10-hour battery life. The Nitro comes in a little bit bigger. It's closer to 1 inch thick. And it comes in at almost 5 pounds, a little under. So there's a pretty noticeable difference.
Great. Andrew, do you have any questions?
I mean, how much time do you have? But the real one is that the Nitro is known as, I mean, being a solid budget option. Like it sells really well. You often see it on the top of a lot of lists for budget. And so this year, like with 4 different main configurations, and that's where you get into memory and storage and all that, like adding more screen sizes, adding more processor options, more GPU options, and even like a slight change to the design. That's a lot of changes to what I'm sure is something that does really well for Acer. So like, what kind of consideration do you take when you say we're going to change this like product that we're really well known for, that is really popular? Is there like a fear that like, oh no, we're going to change something? Or like, what kind of conversations you have before you do that? You say, okay, we're going to add AMD, or we're going to add this new, or we're going to add more screen sizes.
So that's a really good question. I think it's important to understand our philosophy behind this moving forward. Was there fear that, you know, if something's working, don't change it because you might break it? Not really. I mean, we're in this space because we like to push boundaries. We like to take things to the next level and see what works and doesn't. Even if something isn't as wildly successful as you might think, you learn along the way. One example is a absolutely ridiculous, bonkers, in a good way product we came out with years ago called the Predator 21X. And if you remember that was a huge 21-inch curved screen display. It had 2 graphics cards. It required 2 external power adapters. I think battery life was 3 hours if you were lucky. And it weighed something like 20 pounds, right? Totally
mechanical
ridiculous.
Keyboard.
It
came in that, like the suitcase.
Oh yeah, it came in a huge Pelican case.
Yeah.
And it had a $10,000 price point. And we sold every single unit we could. Part of it was just, it was fun. That was the purpose. But we learned some things about the design, trying to, for instance, make that curved screen on a laptop that you could close it down and not crack the screen. So we learned some things there. A little bit same thing here. We're expanding our options. We realize that there's a growing demand from users for performance from both Intel and AMD. AMD has certainly come on strong with their CPUs, and we want to be able to support them. And we figured that the segment to best do that is the one with the widest range of pricing. Almost all the Predator products are well above $1,000. You're going to be able to find Nitros well under $1,000. In fact, the entry price point for the AMD config that was announced today is a 15.6-inch Full HD IPS, sorry guys, 60 hertz refresh, the Ryzen 5 5600H processor, 8 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of M.2 storage, and the GeForce GTX 1650. I know we can go all the way up to 3080, but we're doing this for a price play, $749. And that's going to be available in about a month, mid-February. We touched on screen sizes, difference with brands of CPU. We also have some panel options. There is a QHD option, or 2560 by 1440 resolution with up to 165 hertz refresh. And then we can also go up to full HD with 360 hertz refresh. And that's available in 15.6, 17.3 Intel or AMD CPUs across the board. As you can imagine. Yeah, go ahead.
Are there any key differences? I know that the Triton comes with Intel, and then the Nitro has both AMD and Intel. Are there any key differences between the AMD and Intel versions of the Nitro?
I'd say the primary difference is going to be the inclusion of Thunderbolt 4 on the Intel side. And otherwise, even the AMDs are using Wi-Fi 6. So that's pretty much it.
Okay. So I know that you've shown us what you have on hand, but we have just a couple of minutes left. Do you want to go through any last things for our viewers that Acer will be offering this year?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for the opportunity. I think even if I had the samples, it would be very difficult to show you because we're talking about monitors next. We have 3 monitors we're introducing during CES. 2 of them under the Predator brand and 1 under the Nitro brand. The first is the Predator XB32. It's a 31.5-inch display with G-Sync compatibility. It's UHD, or 3840 by 2160, IPS with 144 hertz refresh. It's a display HDR 400 certified, and it has color accuracy of 90% on the DCI-P3 color gamut coverage range. That'll be available in May for $1,199. The second of the Predators is really very narrowly focused towards esports and kind of professional level gaming. It's the Predator XB27. It offers a WQHD panel that's 2560 by 1440. It's IPS. It is actual G-Sync. The module's built in. It has a native refresh rate of 240 hertz, but it can be overclocked up to 275. It also has the VISA Display HDR 400 certification. Color accuracy improves to 95% of the DCI-P3 color spectrum. And it has something from Nvidia that's kind of been available for a while, but nobody's been talking as much. We're going to start to see that change. It has something called Nvidia Reflex Latency Analyzer. And that's essentially the GeForce Experience will ping the system, primarily display and external devices like mice, and look for what's the slowest in terms of latency device, and kind of sync them up much like G-Sync does, so that when you, in a first-person shooter, for instance, have an action on a mouse button, you expect the explosion or whatever on screen to happen at the same time. It'll kind of sync that up. So that's a pretty neat thing.
Great. And sorry, we're going to have to end here very shortly. But I know that you have the Helios also, if you want to briefly mention that.
Thanks for bringing that up. The Predator, in the gaming space, the Predator Helios is that more mainstream, thicker, powerful device. We have a Predator Helios 300. Nothing has changed in the model at all, but we have a new announcement. The one difference is we're now including the Nvidia GeForce RTX 30 series graphics all the way up to 3080. So it's just a refresh on the GPU. There may be other changes further down the road, but in the narrow time we're looking forward, that's what's happening there.
Great. Thank you so much. Andrew, any last questions or comments?
No, I mean, just thank you for your time. Obviously, you guys are really busy CES, and we didn't even get the chance to touch on the new Aspires or the new Chromebook, but you can go to tomshardware.com to read about a lot lot of that. So, yep, thanks for bringing all that on.
We have articles on the Aspires, on the new Triton, on the Nitro, everything we talked about here today. So just feel free to stop by the Tom's Hardware website. And thank you again, Eric, for joining us.
Oh, you bet so much. Thanks for the opportunity.
Of course. Goodbye and have a nice CES.
Right,
Cheers.
stay tuned for more.